All right, folks, we got him. The guy that everyone wants to be talking to. He's here with us today, Brandon Copeland. Cope, how's it going, man?
I cannot complain at all, man. How you doing?
Doing excellent, dude. Thanks so much for taking the time in. Really appreciate it. Super excited to have you joining us here today. Um, Cope, dude, where are you calling from? This is by far the best background that we've gotten on on one of these calls.
Yeah, man. I am in Denver, Colorado right now. Really outside of Denver. I'm outside of Vail. I'm doing a little retreat, trying to get clear, trying to focus, trying to just keep getting cleaner at my next steps, right? Not only for the business, right, but also for myself as a human being, my family, my kids, and just make sure that hey, in football, you go through training camp and get your mind right for everything else, right? And this is my training camp for the soul to get my mind right for this battle you are constantly familiar with on a daily basis.
Awesome. I see you got a third guy who's jumped in.
Yeah, J Mel, I got to get you a different link. See, this is live. I'm gonna send you a different link, J Mel. This is a guy right
Okay.
here though. Sounds good. Thanks, man.
Uh,
I
yeah, talk about that, Jamal. Oh,
so John Melody right there. Sorry, folks. John Melody right there. He
okay.
was the athletic trainers for the New York Jets when I played
Oh,
there,
hell yeah.
and now he's a consultant with the NFL's player health and safety. He's also an advisory
Awesome.
council member for athletes.org. And
And a guest star on the
ultimately,
Basepath webinar series.
and a guest star. I gave him my link, I guess, and I'm gonna try to give him a different link right now too. But hey,
Yeah.
this is a great lesson for life, folks. In business, you figure it out, you do an audible, and you make it happen. But
Yeah,
what I
real
will say
time.
about J Mel and advisory council and just athletes.org, just a shameless plug. He was one of the few. He was the only athletic trainer. I had six surgeries during my NFL career, and he was the only one that showed up before and after a surgery, like to kind
Okay.
of just calm me down going into it. And I just think that that was phenomenal of him as a human being and a person. And it's not expected. It's not taking any shots at those other trainers. They are very
Sure.
busy and they got a big
Yeah.
team to deal with, right? And you move on to the next person. But the fact that this man took the time away from the team and the guys that are actually on the field to just show up to be at my bedside during that time again just speaks volumes to his character. So
Yeah, and
again,
that's a
sorry about
great
that.
no, it's a great segue into a lot of the work that you guys are doing. Before we jump into it though, I do want to give a quick intro to Brandon, a guy who doesn't need much of one. But just so for the folks that are out there tuned in that haven't had a chance to meet or get to know Brandon, father, former student athlete, Penn, graduated from Wharton, captain of the Penn football team, played a decade in the league. A
Yeah.
handful of stops across the way. The one, obviously, that I'm partial to is the fact that you played for the 2025 Super Bowl champion Detroit Lions for a
Claim
couple
it.
of years.
Claim it.
From there, an author, dude. And by the way, I meant to tell you this. I read your book probably a month or so ago. Like for those of you that
Yeah.
haven't picked it up, you can find the book, Your Money Playbook. Uh, Talks about the art of hustle, how to grow, the power of growth, committing to smart spending habits, um, thinking about your legacy, all great things for obviously athletes. And, we've had the chance to be a part of a couple of events that you guys have put on to really bring more of that into the world of the athletes. But, obviously for anyone out there that's thinking about how to manage their money, manage their legacy, their wealth, or at least try to go from having money to having wealth. Just a tremendous resource. And for those of you out there, kind of same rules applies for us. We're going to send out the video of this. We're recording it. You'll get to see JML on there too for a couple seconds, but you know. We're gonna put out the links for Cope's social handles to where you can find his books. Cope, let us know if there's anything else that we can, get in front of folks as we're kind of going into this conversation. But we're going to spend probably 15, 20 minutes just doing some quick Q&A. We'll leave some question time for the audience to drop some quick ones in there for us, and hopefully get you out of here in a couple of minutes. But dude, really appreciate you taking the time. And we had set this up, just so everyone knows, months ago to do this. It just so happened to be in the week that maybe two of the biggest announcements, I think related to your
That's crazy,
organization
right?
have come out.
Yeah.
And I just kind of wanted to start there, and I'll list out the two, but I think we should start with UAB. So, UAB's football team has joined
Yeah.
AO's Player Association. Correct me if I'm phrasing
Mhm.
that wrong. And then obviously, I think this House kind of settlement with the NCAA has a ton of implications as it relates to rev sharing, employment model, collective bargaining. I mean, while we have you, might as well we'll get your thoughts on it in real time.
Dive
So
in.
yeah, just want to start maybe on the UAB side. So we've had a bunch of folks
Yeah.
reach out to us like, hey, see that you're talking to Cope, like, what does this mean? How, like, what is this actually
Yeah.
doing for the athletes, the coaches, the department? Figured we'd hear it straight from the source.
Yeah, let's do it, man. So one, I think first it'd be good to start with what is a players association. Um, and specifically what we at athletes.org, what a players association does basically in layman's terms, these are not the legal jargon and the legal terms. You got to keep in mind, I've educated people around different topics around their money for years, and I've taken things that people have talked in the clouds about and at a rocket sciencey level about, and just made them in the layman's terms so that everyone can understand what a 401k is, how they should invest, what an estate plan should look like, and all those things. So forgive me for always breaking things down into terms that I can understand. And so what a players association is basically a large unit, or a unit that goes out and protects its members' interests, right? And those interests can span in a number of different topics. And right now, revenue sharing is the largest topic. It's the hot topic, and it's a very important topic. But it also doesn't stop there. It talks about it protects their members in terms of their practice length and their wages and their work conditions and a number of different areas. And so let's start there. And now athletes.org, we look at the college athlete today as pro athletes. Okay. Um, they I always like to say with NIL, when NIL got introduced, you're just going pro earlier. You've always kind of been a pro. Your schedule is like a pro
Sure.
athlete, only instead of you going home and getting to play video games or talk to your family, you got to go leave the practice facility and go to class and then go to study hall and do all those things, right? So we looked at the college athlete as pro athletes, and when NIL was introduced, not only did it introduce a number of amazing opportunities for athletes to grow, to learn about their money earlier, to maximize their playing platform and career, but also it also introduced a lot of bad actors into the space, and a lot of the people who were taking advantage of me and my friends in the locker room started saying, hey, well, let me go down to University of blank and get this DN and who has no protection around him, and let me go promise him and pretend to be an agent and charge him 40% commissions or whatever. I'm using that as an example. I'm going to go ahead and say it. If you're an agent out there and you're charging 40% commissions, you are stealing. I'm going to go ahead and say it. You can hear it from me first. That's cool. We're going to be hot topics all day if you want, because it's wrong. It's just wrong. In the NFL, you have the NFL, you have the NFL Players Association, who a lot of people look like as enemies, but they are also partners in the biggest one of the businesses in the world, right? And a part of that becomes a partnership to protect the players so that they can actually go into the field and maximize their playing careers. You have a standardized player contract. The max an agent can charge in the NFL on player salary is 3%. You can negotiate down from that if you'd like to. In marketing agreements, the max you can charge on that is 20%. So now, college athletes, if you're listening, if you look at your contract and you see more than either of those numbers, you need to fire whoever is doing that. I'm going to go ahead and put it out there too.
Yeah.
We hot button. Hot button
Dude,
today. Okay.
hot takes
Um,
coming in, dude.
takes. Now fast forward to the UAB, right? Um, so far, athletes.org, we've been really in the trenches of signing up members, going out hand-to-hand combat DMs, um, working through agents who believe in us and believe in the vision, believe that their athletes should have this type of advocacy at their level. And we've worked hard to sign up 2,900 members now, over 2,900 members. And
Congrats, man. That's
UAB,
huge.
thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you. UAB was an opportunity for a coach like Trent Dilfer, who has won a Super Bowl, right? Who has been a part of a union to recognize that, hey, my players deserve this type of support.
Right.
And so we went to UAB, we presented to them, and we did not force anybody to sign up. We showed them the facts. The NCAA represents its members are the schools. NACDA represents its members, the directors of collegiate athletics, ADs, right? You got NABC, represents the basketball coaches. You got AFCA, represents the football coaches. You even have NADA, represents the athletic trainers. And when you say that to a bunch of athletes and they start looking around like, yeah, hold up.
Yeah.
Who, who is going to try to get us an extra percentage or two here, right? Who is going to stop us when coach is having us practice for 3 hours and 55 minutes? Who's going to protect our interests here? And so that was great, man. It was a great
Well,
conversation. We presented to them and they believed.
isn't it also kind of to the benefit of the industry to have some of this in place just so that you don't have to run into, because obviously, like, and this is going to weave into the house discussion here for a moment, like, I think we all saw the news come out. Hey, there's a world in which $20 million can be basically distributed out to the athletes directly from the institutions. How that's all going to take place, I think, is still a bit of a mystery, and a lot of that I think will fill out over the next probably 6 to 14 months. That being said, hey, if you're going to do that without having the athletes at the table to have a voice, you're just going to run right back into these antitrust lawsuits that are going to spin you right back into the court system. So, I mean, it isn't there also some form of incentive for the institutions or for these coaches or for these athletes, like beyond the immediate protections put in place for the athletes, which I think are obviously incredibly admirable and commendable, and something that, yeah, we've seen our fair share of deals where, hey, we got to send what over to the agent, like it's legitimately criminal.
Yeah.
I mean, like, put that on the hot take, but like, there are, I think, benefits holistically to the industry of having some structure in place for the athletes to have a voice. Is that something that you guys are hearing too from the folks that you're talking to within the space?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, being very frank, we've talked to a number over 50 at this point, ADs, coaches. Um, we've spoken with the NCAA, right? And again, for some people in the industry, they may see it as, hey, you can't have those conversations. It's the athletes and it's them, right?
I was just gonna
I've
say, like,
also spoken with the NFL.
right.
Go ahead.
No, no, no. I don't mean to cut. I was just gonna ask, like, the schools, to me, I know we talked early days. It's like the schools don't know what to make of you. They don't know whether or not they can even talk to you. Like, how has that
Yeah.
progressed as part of that kind of?
Yeah, I think sometimes the blessing that we've been able to receive as a result of the work we're doing in the last 8 months. I mean, 8 months old, and we've Pat McAfee mentioned us the other day, right? Like,
Yeah, dude.
that's pretty cool. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Pat. But we've been in ESPN, we've been in all these different spaces in media, and the beautiful thing about it is we're getting the shine that the organization deserves, but it's not shine for me or my co-founder Jim. It's the shine that these athletes deserve of, hey, like, we really believe in this, right? The issue sometimes is people will read a article and think that that means that they know you or know your intentions, and that's not always the case. And so I think that that can sometimes rub people the wrong way. Sometimes people hear players association or they hear certain words and they trigger them to also look at
Sure.
us as a threat. And so we've been as intentional as possible with our words to try to make sure people will come to the table so that we can have conversations. Because what if, again, I've spoken with people at both the NFL and the NFLPA, and they both look at it as one of the best partnerships in the world, right? When they get their things right, the fans benefit, the world benefit, those
Right.
communities around the cities benefit, the players benefit, their families benefit. Like it's a great partnership. But right now, obviously, this is new to college athletics. It's uncomfortable, and so there's going to be that learning curve or those growing pains, so to speak. And we're fortunately we have a team, and we're also athlete mindsets where we're used to hearing no, we're used to climbing up that wall, but more and more people are buying in to this being a solution that's not just for the benefit of the athletes, but also for the benefit of the industry. The solution we've created actually helps save college athletics. And what a lot of people are fighting and rearing against is the fact that certain mechanisms will trigger universities to look at their budgets and say, well, I mean, if we're looking at it from a P&L standpoint, I'm going to get rid of this and I got to get rid of this. And, oh, we got Title IX, we have these things. But the flexibility and the infrastructure we've created is not only to provide all athletes, regardless of what sport you play and at what level, with the same valuable resources like pro bono legal services, free background checks, free mental wellness support, free second medical opinions, but also to go out and advocate for their specific issues. Because me, as a University of Pennsylvania, no offense to my Quaker brothers, but the issues we dealt with are different than a SEC football player. And I
Right.
know that, and we know that. And so they need to be advocated for differently. And that's the beauty in athletes.org.
Yeah, and until that end, I know you guys have structured chapters. That's a term I hear used pretty frequently when we see stuff come across the wire on you all. Like, how does a chapter roll up into a players association? Is that a thing, or like is a players association a chapter, or vice versa? Like, how do those things function to best serve the members of those different groups?
Yeah, I think the best way to think about it is think of the chapter as its own mini association, right? And so in the NFLPA, I'm sorry for everybody out there listening. I'm gonna give you my experience as an NFLPA member
Yeah.
because athletes.org is hey, we have a really great plan and it's been going well thus far, but hey, I'm not a member of AO as a college athlete. So I'm gonna speak from my experience here and how we've built athletes.org. The NFLPA, if there's an issue where the CBA is coming up and we want to vote on an extra game, right? There's a issue that is proposed, motion to decide whether we will play a 17th game this season, extend the season to 18 games in total, and we'll play 17 games. And then every single team has a player rep on that team. So in the NFL's 32 teams, all 32 player reps get to be the voice of the locker room and vote. All in favor say aye.
Sure.
All not in favor say nay, right? And so once that vote is passed, the ayes have it, so to speak, then that vote, all those 32 votes roll up to the executive committee that now codifies and steers and really irons out the details of that particular vote.
Sure.
And then that is what the NFL Players Association goes out and advocates for. Now, let's think for athletes.org, we have chapters, as you said. So we launched in November, which is crazy how fast time is flying.
Yeah, dude.
But we launched in November the ACC men's and women's basketball chapter. These are two separate chapters. And so in the ACC men's basketball, all ACC men's basketball teams, on all those ACC teams, we have a player rep on every single team. And on the women's basketball teams, we have a player rep on all those teams. All of those player reps become the voices of those locker rooms.
Mm.
All in favor say aye, all not in favor say nay, right? And then that vote gets passed up to our executive committee, which is made up of current college athletes, and those athletes codify that to go out and advocate for it. Athletes.org, ladies and gentlemen, is not Brandon Copeland's like let's just do this. You
Yeah.
know, this
Right.
is what do y'all want to do? And me giving you guidance as a person who's been in those shoes, but also who's seen it done at the pro level for 10 years and giving you guidance on how to best advocate for yourself, and also putting the tools and infrastructure around you to do so
Yeah,
at the
it's
highest level possible.
right. It's putting the best in class processes in place to allow for the athletes to have a voice, and doing it in a way that doesn't create chaos. We can't have 40,000 people shouting at the same time. Putting the guardrails in place to kind of step that up makes a ton of sense. Um, where is like the tipping point for you guys in terms of really kind of getting that seat at the table? And the other kind of interesting part about college athletics is there's like 15 tables. It's like there's the college football playoff table, there's the men's basketball table, there's the NCAA table, there's the you know employment rights table. Like I guess, how do you kind of envision the world that athletes are going to have to find and navigate their way through? And AO is obviously going to be a huge kind of, they'll probably be the captain on the ship, like steering it towards getting them in the right rooms at the right times for the right decisions. But like, where do you see the tipping point for those kind of invitations to the table start to come? And then where do you see where do you see the tables? Like, are there 10?
Yeah,
Is there one? Like,
yeah. There's definitely a lot of tables. So you got to get your plate ready. And I'm a Husky guy, so I like to
oh,
invite
dude,
me to any table you want to invite me to.
I like to say I'm
Um,
an equal opportunity
the,
eater, man. Like, you put it in front of me, I'll take it.
right, there we go. Um, so I think first, what we focus on is, first, do we earn the trust of the athletes? Let's go get them. Let's get them
Sure,
bought in. Because it does me no good if I show up to the table and the athletes aren't willing to show up or don't know why they should show up. And
sure.
um, so that's step one. And we're consistently working on that on a daily basis, and have actually executed on that in a number of different ways, which I'll share in a second. Step two, like you said, there are multiple tables. There's the table at the conference level. There's tables at the schools, individual schools level. There's table at the broader NCAA level. There's table at the CFP level, like, all the different March Madness, right? There's multiple tables. And so we have to make sure that we are doing what we can only control right now, which is signing up our athletes and having the conversations with the leaders to make sure that they understand that we exist and our athletes want a genuine say. What we've also started to set up our own tables. So March Madness Final Four, we set up a private discussion. I don't know. This is breaking news here. We set
Hey,
up a
dude,
private
we'll take it.
discussion where we had multiple of our college athletes fly out, and the football players who couldn't fly out because of spring ball zoomed in, and we literally set up a conference room with athletic directors, some coaches, the NCAA, some former college coaches, some people in media, and basically created this amazing room of over 28 people, and had all different perspectives around the table to start having conversations, discussions.
Incredible.
What does the future look like, right? And so I think, for as much as it is, we have to be strong enough to be able to go sit at those tables and have our athletes be willing to fly in their free time to watch other people play, right? They didn't even go to the game. They just flew in just for that meeting, right? We have to be strong enough to get them to do that and to come and show up at those other tables. But we also have to create our own tables where we can invite people and different perspectives to the room. And one point to hit on that, Thomas, is, again, there are some naysayers out there about athletes.org, and the CEO in me is supposed to take the high road and not say anything and not act like it exists. But I'm an athlete, and that's how I got here, right? And so the athlete in me sees that little negative comment or that negative article, and I take notes, I take the license plates down, and it motivates me. And I just want to share with those naysayers, the beautiful thing about us is we don't claim to have all the right answers. You're hearing it from me first. I don't
Sure.
claim to have all the right answers. This has never been done before in any of our lives. So by bringing all the right perspectives around the table, we're able to have a really great dialogue to get us to the right answer. This is a puzzle and a Rubik's Cube that we're all trying to solve for the betterment of college athletics and the betterment of sports. And so that's why we bring all the perspectives around the table. It's not to codify what they do or to to be a shill. It's to make sure that they can hear how Sedona Prince feels, or how Hunter Dickinson feels, or how Armando Bacot feels, or how Piper Hampsh, ACC sack chair, feels about what she really thinks about sack and why she's a member of athletes.org right now. And so by doing that, that is where our power comes in. And yeah, I just wanted to address why we have other perspectives around the table, because hey, we're smart enough to know we don't know it all.
I was talking to another founder in this space yesterday, and they said something to me that when he said it, I was like, that makes it so much sense. I don't know how I've never articulated in my mind kind of the same way, but essentially what it was is within every industry, there is a single value creation asset that drives the industry. In oil and gas, it's the fossil fuel. Like in hospitality, it's service. Within college athletics, that is the athlete. Like we have a ton of incredible administrators and folks that are leading this industry forward. But at the end of the day, if an athlete doesn't show up to play on Saturday or on Wednesday, or fly across the country or bus to down the road, like none of it matters. And if you're not, I think the one thing I've always had a ton of respect for with your guys' kind of vision and mission, and the values that you run this thing is it really comes back to how do we empower the athlete? How do we capture that voice? How do we help them to protect themselves as they step into a new world with a whole bunch of new risks that they've never had to deal with before, but also put them in a position to be successful for where this thing moves. So super, yeah, really appreciate you sharing kind of the vision and how you guys are doing it. But yeah.
Can I share one more thing on that note? Because I
Please.
appreciate you calling that out, and that's why Thomas, you and I have connected behind the job title. There's a person there, right? And it was extremely important for when we started. We say athletes.org is the Players Association for college athletes, aiming to amplify their voice, provide them with on-demand support, and maximize their income, right? Voices first, right? Give them a voice. Give them a chance to speak up about, hey, it should be like this. Hey, guys, I don't know, coach, this doesn't feel right. Coach, we've had multiple ACL tears doing this same drill. I kind of like my career, coach. You're proving a point right now, but it doesn't really feel good to me. They've never had a chance to do that. To stop being rated. I was rated a 3-star athlete in 7th grade. Man, can I rate the coaches now? Can I rate the schools? Yeah, it's in 7th grade, right? And that's a whole nother conversation. But and then to give them real support. And so I really wanted to hone in on the support piece, because I am extremely proud that we've built a platform and an ecosystem with some amazing providers who have been willing to work with our athletes before asking them for anything. And now we have athletes actively reaching out to us using free background checks before they start to work with an agent, getting their contract reviewed. We just had a 5-star recruit who will be going into college next year send us a contract, and the first things the lawyer said, this is a horrible agreement, please don't sign it, right? And then now let's set up a call so that we can really discuss this in long form. Who knows what we just saved this young person from? Two more examples. We had a young man reach out who is battling. He has 2 twin boys, and he's unfortunately going through custody issues with the mother of the child. Now, how many young people would be in a place where they could reach out to somebody and ask for help? We just got him connected to a lawyer who's guiding him. This young man is fighting to see his 2 twin boys. We had another person who left their football team battling with depression that's turned into drug abuse. We just linked him up with a therapist, former NFL player actually, who's helping him, right? Now, a lot of times we don't talk about this in the revenue sharing model and all those things, but like those wins are when we say we impact athletes to impact the world, and we're trying to make the world a better place because athletics has given me so much. Those are the things that go unseen and untalked about, that the team at athletes.org is working their tail off every single day to provide to our athletes. And I appreciate your platform for allowing us to to broadcast that because we want more. We have a lot of
Yeah.
people who are there said, hey, how can I help you? How can I protect you? And we want more of them to know about it.
And honestly, we've had a ton of folks that we work with who ask us regularly. You know, we're very fortunate to be a part of that kind of trusted, resource network that you guys have. And I mean, just to take a step back, I mean, the human element of this is real and gets diminished seemingly every day. We see the beautiful, logos and emblems on the jerseys and helmets of our, the athletes that we love and adore, but you forget that underneath those, underneath that jersey and underneath that helmet is a kid, like a young man or young woman who is dealing with Lord knows what. Obviously, we all carry our own baggage. These athletes are doing that on top of a practice schedule and a game schedule, and have dozens of folks that are trying to find a way to sneak a penny out of them. And so, yeah, I mean, it is something that for us is, I think, resonates incredibly loudly, that the work that you guys are doing is beyond just how to bring in the dollars to these guys, but more so how to protect them and how to provide them resources. And to your point, without asking for anything, like you guys, we have heard from a number of our athletes, hey, we go to AO because we can get real help. They actually provide us with real meaningful solutions to our problems. So yeah, kudos to you guys. And and I'll say too, I've tried to hire half of your team before they join you guys. Like, you've got an incredible group over there that really care. A lot of former athletes who have kind of been in the jerseys and in the shoes and in the helmets to be able to feel it from their side and pass it on to the athletes as well. But no, really appreciate you sharing that. And I know some of those stories are not easy to hear, but to know that there are folks out there that they can go and get help from is really exciting, to probably for some of the first times for many of these kids. I did want to, you talked about the financial side. I did want to take a quick step over there before we open it up for some Q&A, and I've got a couple that have come in. You have a passion for personal finance. You're an author of a personal finance book. I've seen you speaking on like MSNBC, CNBC, a lot of these, financial literacy programs. How has that kind of passion intertwined with AO for you?
Yeah, man. So I came into the NFL and I learned a lot about my money. And I'm a Wharton Business School grad. I'm interned on Wall Street, and they taught me a lot about how to trade and do and evaluate a stock and all of that type of stuff. But they didn't necessarily teach me about my 401k or IRA or what a will is and probate versus intestate, all these different things. And I felt like it was pretty odd that I had to make it to the Baltimore Ravens in 2013 to learn what a 401k is. And so just always took it upon myself to try to teach people how to fish with the platform. And I think that as evolved that into what athletes.org is what better next step than to try to educate people on their money and how to become a millionaire than to go and try to create more millionaires. And by athletes.org going with our athletes and advocating to those schools for the money that they earned, right? It's not, hey, give me, please help me. Like, this is just the equitable thing to do. This is just the right thing to do. And if you can pair the money that they potentially can make, or we will help them make, with the right education, the right tools, the right resources, the right protection to keep you from falling victim to fraudulent behavior, now you put a lot of more of these athletes on a pathway to walk away from their sport with more than just memories and bruises and bumps, right? Now you can walk away with, I know NIL is great, and NIL is great for some, but I always tell people that's like Patrick Mahomes only getting paid from State Farm.
Right.
That's, imagine if Pat Mahomes did not get paid from the Kansas City Chiefs. We
Right.
look at that like that's pretty backwards, right? So I think that if we just kind of equate some of these things, because I know a lot of people are still on the, I know they shouldn't get paid because it doesn't feel right. I'm just not going to watch the game. You'll still watch the game. The rivalry will still be good, right?
Right.
It's just making sure that these young people can walk away with more than just good memories to show for it. and now they have more of a leg to stand on for their hard work and their tremendous amount of sacrifice over their time playing college sports.
I love it, dude. We've got a couple of questions that have come through. I'm just going to kind of rapid fire these off to you.
Cool.
What is the difference between a players association and a union?
So a union, first, to be a union, you have to be an employee. And so if you are
Got it.
designated an employee, then you can be a part of a union, which now a union has more potential for antitrust exemption and all of those things, protections from the courts to collectively bargain on behalf of its members. A lot of the feedback we get is, well, it's you guys are a players association, you're not a union. Our chapters have the ability to become a union like this.
Gotcha.
If and when our athletes become employees. So there's no real reason for us to be a union today because athletes aren't employees.
Sure. Makes sense. Another one, California state laws are changing that are moving more towards the employment model for student athletes. Like, I guess that kind of answers the question from the previous one, but how are you guys thinking about states or federal employment implications?
Yeah, so our flexible infrastructure by us organizing athletes. So every time an athlete comes in, they're organized into a chapter based off their sport and their conference. Those chapters can be the launch pin. So imagine this: if we were a union right now, and all those USC athletes became employees, then maybe we could just be able to serve those USC athletes, and we couldn't serve everybody else. By us having this flexible structure, now if those USC athletes are employees, boom, that chapter can become a union if it's the best decision for those athletes, and they will help us make that decision.
Sure.
They'll be educated on it, and they'll help us make it. And then we still have the infrastructure to serve all the other athletes and advocate for what is best in their interests as well too.
Would imagine creating a union is something that has some paperwork and some stuff that, like, having a group behind them that can help them with some of those kind of questions would be really meaningful.
Absolutely.
Next one, how does an athletic department or coach engage with AO today?
Yeah. So in a number of different ways, some of them reach out via just current previous relationships, text message, phone calls. Some of them have started reaching out via, oddly enough, Instagram, DMs,
Yeah,
social
dude.
medias,
Yeah.
follows backs. Hey, who's looking at you and they follow you.
Oh, yeah.
And so we've started engaging with those interactions that way. But we've set up a number of Zoom calls. We walk people through strategies, athletic directors, coaches, as I mentioned before. And right now, especially after the UAB news, we have a number of coaches and athletic directors who are trying to bring us into their schools to educate and potentially sign up their athletes. Again, none of them are pushing their athletes to sign up. We are not. I told everybody, if you go and look at the long form video, I told everybody you can opt out. You don't have to be a part of this. I promise you, you don't have to be a part of it. This is not a force, but when athletes can see their own reality and the facts, they can make their own decision. And we're biased, but we think AO is a good one.
Well, and I would imagine on the coaching side in particular, like, everything seems to be a recruiting arms race. Like, hey, Coach Dilfer does it. Now he's talking about that in every, dining room of every family that he's visiting for the next, 6, however long the recruiting cycle is these days. But, those are obviously part of the conversations that I've already had a couple of coaches reach out to us saying, like, hey, what does this mean? Like, what are they going to do with this? How is this affecting their team and their athletes? Because I suspect they're already starting to hear, like, oh, hey, if these guys are providing all this stuff on top of what I'm already getting, that's, material and pretty meaningful.
Oh, it also puts into perspective who's for you and who's against you as an athlete.
Right.
Frankly, I mean, I'm just going to say how I would feel as an athlete in that locker room, and Dilfer calls it out. A lot of leaders are living very comfortable lifestyles, and their athletes back home aren't. They may live it on that campus and in that multi-million-dollar facility, but when they go back home, some of them go back to nothing. And And the more coaches, and basically I'll use a different word. If you want if you really care about your athletes, why don't you work to make their lives be comfortable just like yours?
Right.
Let's just leave it there.
Last one I've got on the questions from the audience. This is from a collective. Can a collective set up a chapter for their athletes? I guess, or is that kind of like the collective can help to bring the athletes together, but it's probably an athlete chapter, not a collective chapter, I would guess.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it would be a coordination between us, but I don't want to say yes, a collective. We can set up a collective chapter, but we are definitely working with collectives to organize their athletes into chapters. Best possible scenarios for currently existing, but also into the future. So, yes, if there's whoever asked that question, please reach out to me. I can make sure you guys get my email or info@athletes.org would be the easiest
No,
way.
and that's kind of a great way to segue to the transition out. We will share over Cope's information with anyone who was on the call, and certainly the folks that at questions come in. I highly recommend taking a look at the book, reading it, even for a guy who's not an athlete. Your Money Playbook is, does a lot. It was, dude, I'm not just saying it. It was the best personal finance book I've read, and I've read, more than a fair share as a guy who runs a company that's trying to help, athletes with their finances. So, a tremendous resource. Cool. Cannot thank you enough for the time. I'll leave it to you to kind of wrap it up with anything else that you want to leave us with that we didn't cover.
No, one, I just want to thank you, Thomas, for giving me the space to be here today. I also want to thank you for again your heart and also your support and your drive to really see the athletes win. Right. Like I just think that, for us and athletes.org, we want to continuously identify and work with people who genuinely want what's best for the athletes holistically. Yes, in their money, but also up here because these sports are tough, these schedules are tough, and also to protect them so that there's so many different things that your athletes or our favorite athletes may be dealing with off the field, off the court, outside the playing arena that we never know anything about. And we just always want them to have a safe space that they can go to and get the help that they need and the help that they deserve. And so if you're about that, if you want to help us impact athletes, to impact the world, please reach out to us because we would love to partner with you, collaborate with you, however best to serve our athletes.
Well, can't thank you enough, man, truly, for coming and joining us, obviously, but for everything that you're doing within the industry and to help support these athletes as they're, finding their way through this ever-changing path. They're very fortunate to have someone like you on their side for that journey. So can't thank you enough again, man. Really appreciate the time. Thanks for the audience for the questions, and we'll follow up here soon with a bunch of the data and stats and everything else that we need to get you guys in touch. But thanks so much, man. Appreciate it.
Awesome, brother. Have a good one.